to this week's episode of NetKno, the networking show, where we talk about all things networking. And this week, we're getting a little personal this week. And I want to talk about therapy. And this is not going to be a therapy session. I'm not a therapist. But I want to talk about how therapy can influence and help us in our networking activities. And that's building connections with our friends, our family, but also professionally, obviously, networking. So I'm going to wind it back a little bit and tell you about my kind of personal journey with it and how it's influenced the way in which I network. So a few years ago, I was going through a phase of doing like loads of night courses. I did one in sign language, which was class. I highly recommend everyone should learn sign language, even just the basics. And then I did one in counselling, and I thought, counselling will be quite a good one to learn because it's going to help me with like coaching and working one-to-one with businesses and people. And it'll just be interesting to know a bit more about the background of how it works and what to be done. Anyway, turns out counselling is not for me. Counselling is very much about listening, which, don't get me wrong, I'm better at it than I used to be, but sitting and listening, I'm a fixer. So if someone comes to me with something that's up, I'm like, oh, right, okay, let's build a spreadsheet. Have we spoke to this person? Have you been here? And, I can't help myself, whereas the counsellor's job is just to sit, listen, and allow that person to work through it themselves. But what I also learned is that counselling is very much about dealing with current existing problems or issues or working through something that's kind of just happened recently. Whereas therapy is more about looking backwards and looking back at things that's happened deeper into our past that are influencing how we behave and how we go through life now. So doing that counselling course, really enjoyed it, really interesting. And that kind of spurred me on to I knew I didn't want counselling because nothing specific had really happened to me like that I wanted to address. But I thought, do you know what? I'm going to go and get therapy, give it a try, see what I learn about myself. I felt like I'd done a lot of personal development over the last few years, and I'd got to a point where I'd kind of done as much as I could on my own, and I was interested to see what came out of it. So I committed to 3 months of therapy once a week. And oh my word, I thought I was pretty just a normal, well, not that I'm not normal, but turns out there's a whole load of trauma in there. And my therapist, she was amazing, absolutely wonderful woman. And every week there'd be like something and we'd go and I'd be like, and she explained it to me like, you've got this sandbox. And by going to therapy, you're shaking this sandbox and all these little issues and things coming to the surface that you had no idea were there. But once you start shaking it, you can't send them back down. So going into therapy, don't do it lightly. But I highly recommend it. And there's loads of reasons why. Firstly, just getting to know yourself at that level and in a completely different way. And every week, just about, especially once she got to know me, we could start connecting the dots between past experiences and current behaviors. So I would learn that things that would trigger me now would be based on experiences I'd had when I was younger or things that had happened, whether that was in relationships, friendships, whatever it might be. And being able to understand that the reason that I'm triggered or I react to certain words, certain tones of voice, certain environments or experiences, understanding that happens because of things happen in the past, it just frees you from it, and it allows you to understand yourself at this completely different level, and then it doesn't control you anymore. So when you are building new relationships, and like just about every week I'd go home to my husband and I'd be like, Dave, you know that when you do this and then I kick off, it's because of this, and then connecting those dots, and he'd be like, oh, and it really helped him understand me better as well, which was absolutely amazing. And it has been like super game changing for us, and hence why I recommend everyone does it. But it takes that power away from those past experiences, which then allows you to, in a moment when you do get irate. So if you're at a networking event and someone says something to you or uses a certain tone of voice, and you have a reaction to it and a response, which is completely justified, understanding why you have that response allows you to, in that moment, make a decision as to whether or not you are going to allow that response to affect this new interaction, because it's not that person's fault necessarily. There's nothing wrong with learning from past experiences and, having bad experiences with someone and seeing the same traits in others that you meet in the future. That's a safety thing. That's a good thing. But I think when it's something that's maybe not justified because that person, it's not intentional and they have no idea that you've had these past experiences, they're not doing it to trigger you, they're just being themselves. It can absolutely change the way that you interact with the new people that you are meeting and engaging with and making these new connections. So having this level of self-awareness, knowing yourself and why you respond to certain things the way that you do, it just takes that power away and it allows you to choose how you respond to things, which can be an absolute game changer for your personal relationships, but also for professional ones. And it allows you to better communicate and articulate, whether it's because when we network with our colleagues as well as people outside of our organizations. So again, if you have internal issues with certain people, if you can understand why those issues are there and articulate them and explain them to that person so that they can adjust their behavior as well, again, allowing for that reasonable adjustment to help you, it's going to reduce conflict. It's going to help nurture and build better and stronger connections and relationships, again, within organizations, but also outside of the organization as well. So I hugely recommend thinking about getting therapy. I think it's a lot less. I think back in the day, maybe you'd be like, oh, you go to therapy. Whereas it's a bit more like popular now, I guess. But hugely recommend it. Again, it can be a game changer for you as an individual, for your personal, intimate relationships, but also going out networking professionally, building those relationships within your organization, but also beyond that. It just helps build more meaningful, closer connections and ones that are authentic and more enjoyable at the same time. And as I always say, networking should be fun. So hope that sparked some maybe thoughts for you. Let me know if you've been through a therapy journey. It's something that I often think I'd love to go back and get more therapy. I often think, oh, I'd tell my therapist about this. I miss her. But for now, I'm good, but maybe one day. But yeah, let me know if you've been through therapy. How was it for you? What did you learn about yourself? Has it impacted your relationships? And as always, if you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with your wider network, help add value to them. And make sure you like, comment, share, and make sure you subscribe as well to the show so that you don't miss any episodes. Next week, we're going to be looking at how to follow up after networking events. That's often an issue for people. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that episode, and I shall see you there.
A Liquid Studios production.